Daphne King, you're in quarantine and I am at your gallery in Hong Kong. At this year's Art Basel, you have a special presentation called Past and Present Landscapes. We've got exhibits by modern masters, large-scale installations, and even works that will travel through Hong Kong on the iconic tram. So what's the message that you bring?
Oftentimes when people look at landscape or think of Chinese landscape painting, it's like this very traditional Chinese landscape that appears. And I think oftentimes for like an untrained eye or to the Western collectors, it's very difficult for them to understand or appreciate it. We wanted to do past and present because we wanted to kind of contemporize this whole genre of paintings and allow more people to understand it and appreciate it. When you're talking about the iconic Hong Kong tram car, that's, like bringing this whole very traditional classical medium right into the public, in our face. So everybody can see it and they can understand and realize, oh, it's not so intimidating after all.
Speaking of landscapes, Chinese landscape art is an extension of the brushstrokes in calligraphy and regarded as the highest form of painting. Chinese artists use mountains, rivers, waterfalls, even agriculture, which demonstrates their closeness to the natural world. What do these artists teach us?
You really can see how they think of nature and how it's really important to respect nature. And also, I think kind of the need for humans to coexist with nature and not, taking it for granted and not destroying what is basically given by God. Another work that Hong Kong artist Danny Lee has created is a sculpture with a mountain, and on top there's 3 large droplets of stainless steel water. It's kind of perched very vicariously on top of this pointy mountain. Why does on top of this beautiful mountain, why do we only have droplets of water? Maybe people say, oh no, at the top of the mountain, there shouldn't be flowing water. It's should be frozen like a glacier. But then if you look closely at these 3 droplets of water, they're actually slowly melting. So that's also a commentary. Either we should have more water, or if not, it's supposed to be ice and it's frozen, but then now it's starting to melt. So, I think these artists, they really have kind of a love for nature, and they're noticing that there's all these changes that are going on.
Alisan Fine Arts over the years has become a major gathering point for Chinese contemporary artists from the mainland, Hong Kong and the global diaspora. These are 3 groups with overlapping yet distinct histories of their own. How does this mix of experiences come out in the works that these artists create?
Someone such as Wallace Ting, as well as Chao Chung-shang, they're Chinese diaspora artists, and they both left China in the 1940s via Europe, and they both eventually settled in New York City in the 1950s. And this was during the height of the American Abstract Expressionist movement and later the pop art movement. And so if you look at their artwork, you can see that that type of influence clearly comes out in their work, such as their use of these fluorescent bright colors, which is very reminiscent of pop art, especially for Chao Chung-shang. His abstract work, he uses a lot of very strong and bold strokes that, is kind of reminiscent of like Jackson Pollock or somebody like that. And then if we look at somebody like a Hong Kong ink master like Lu Shuquan, he depicts paintings that are called Zen landscape paintings with ink and paper. And these are abstract images that evoke a feeling of Zen. And he stayed in Hong Kong for most of his life. So I think his paintings are closer to the tradition of Chinese landscape paintings, where the actual image of what he is depicting isn't really important, but it's like evoking a feeling. And then if you look at a mainland artist who also works in ink tradition, since their exposure to the West is much less, even true in this day and age, their search for a modern language is usually within their own tradition. So somebody like Wang Tiande, his work is a traditional landscape painting, but then in order to kind of modernize and contemporize what he's doing, he uses ink and he uses incense to paint, where he actually burns the paper with the incense, and he's drawing with it, the incense.
I'm James Chau, host of the China Current. We thank you for walking on this journey with us. Keep following us there at the China Current.